Hey everybody, this is Perch. I did a video a few days ago, and several of you commented on it, around this manga being sold at a store called Five Below. Very similar to a dollar store. It's the same kind of thing, but basically cheap location to buy stuff. Five Below, I think, is most famous for incredibly cheap headphones. That's what that store is known for. I don't know, maybe, but they were selling these $5 kind of manga starter packs, and they were is Tankaban manga, and it was the first volume and usually the second volume of a number of different series. All of them, I think, without a fault, had many books. So you wanted to try and complete the whole thing. A few are still going, but a lot of them were, there's like 30 volumes to pick up. And they not all 30 volumes were offered, but the first couple were offered. And if you turn to the back of the book, it gave you a really handy, in fact, it had like a website and a QR code. And it's buy more. Buy more, scan this, and we'll take you immediately to a shopping cart page. I think one of them was hilarious because they had a QR code to buy direct. They had a QR code to download an app so you can get the digital version. They had a link to Amazon. It was like everywhere you could go. And you might be shocked to know that the versions that were being sold all more than $5. Everything, if you want your to continue your fix, if you want to get volume 3, volume 4, you're now going to be paying like $10. And so this is just smart to me. And I mentioned in the video, the sad part was there was not a single Marvel or DC comic in sight. Now, up in the Seattle area, they don't have Five Below. Down here in the Texas area, they do. And so I said, this is kind of pathetic. And several of you wrote in to say, no, it wasn't always like that. There used to be Marvel and DC stuff there. In years past, you had Batman comics, you had a Marvel pack, you had comics there, kind of doing the same thing, cheap. But this year, just manga, and it got me thinking. Why just manga? And so I actually, after posting that video and seeing some of your comments came in, I wrote an email and said, to Five Below, you can go to the website and you can ask them questions. And I didn't really expect any kind of an answer, but I wrote an email to them and say, hey, why don't you have, some Marvel stuff? Why don't you have some Spider-Man, some Batman, some DC stuff? Why don't you have something, some others? I made it up a little bit. I'm like, I bought some of the manga for my kids. They were very excited, but being big Marvel movie fans, they really want to see some Marvel stuff there. And there wasn't anything for sale. Have you ever considered offering that? Why don't you offer that? So I expected to get nothing in return. But sure enough, Christmas Eve, I get an email in return. Sorry, not Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. I get an email in return saying, thanks for your interest. At this time, Marvel and DC have ended their partnership with Five Below. You know what? I'll just read it to you. It says, I'm going to skip the beginning. Dear Perch, I didn't write it as Perch, but Dear Perch, thank you for your interest in Five Below and our book and magazine offerings. Okay. At the current moment, Five Below does not offer the content you asked for due to it not being offered by the supplier. In previous years, we have had comics, as you've mentioned, and some stores may still have that material for sale. However, it is no longer being actively offered by the publisher, and therefore we are unable to offer it at this time. And then just some other stuff in the mail. But so the answer there is not, hey, we manga is what sells. It wasn't even available for us to offer in the first place. And I guess the point I'm making here is several of you speculated, and right now manga is hot. It definitely is. If you go into any kind of shopping mall, if you still go to those places, and you look at like the stuff that's offered on T-shirts, kind of in the middle of the, in the aisle, in the place where people are walking around, there's tons of Demon Slayer, there's tons of Chainsaw Man, there's even One Piece, there's very little, Spider-Man, Batman, Captain America, etc. There's very little of that, or none. But there's quite a few. There's a lot of interest in anime and manga. So I mean, there's clearly been a bit of a shift for sure of what people are interested in. But that is not the reason why this content is not being sold in the newsstand in places like the dollar store and in Five Below in airports. The reason why it's not there is not because the store owner said, I'm not carrying that Western crap. I no woke stuff for me. That's not going on at all. In fact, the contrary. You get the feeling that in a lot of these places, they would be thrilled to carry something with Spider-Man on it. People are not stupid. They do know that the movies are out there. Spider-Man made a lot of money a couple of years ago. Black Panther is making, or last year, when the hell did that movie come out? I don't know. Black Panther is making a lot of money right now. Black Panther 2. Uh, do you think the store owner here is like, I'm not carrying any of that Marvel stuff because some of their editors are pricks on Twitter. Not at all. They have no idea what these people. I mean, you could pull a gun to their head. They could not tell you who the editor of the Avengers comics were. None of them could. They would be more than happy to have a product to put up on their shelf that matched what's in the movie theater. The reason it's not there is because it's not offered in the first place, which is somehow much worse, much worse than if the store owner was going, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm going for the manga. In this case, it's like, nobody's even showing up to play ball. I mean, this kills me. It will forever kill me that Marvel and DC, with their massive backlog of comics, with tons and tons of, how many times have these companies rebooted, had these jumping on for new readers kind of moments where, they intentionally do an origin story or something very simple? I mean, hell, do you think if you took the John Byrne Man of Steel from the 80s and you collected that in a book, in a little Tonkabon style book, and you offered, and you don't think that would sell? Of course it would sell. I mean, it's absolutely baffling. And for what it's worth, of all the new kind of current reboots, Bendis comes on and he's going to make a big splash on Superman. Tom King comes on Batman at the beginning. I know everybody got burned by Tom King down the road, but a lot of that stuff that's happened in the last 10 years is borderline inaccessible to new readers, to the person who's going to go into a Five Below store and just want to buy a comic and feel like, you started at the beginning and you read something. You're new to comics, which was a lot of us once upon a time. The difference is if you got into comics in the 80s or the 90s, there were lots and lots of trades and books that could help you, help you start. Today, I mean, think about it. I know lots of people clown on some of the different kind of comics that are being produced today. Can you think of any part of the Krakoa era of the X-Men that you could bundle in a little 100-page little book that would make sense to fucking anyone? None of it would. Not a single page would make sense to a new reader. And that is true of almost everything being produced today. Bendis restarts Legion of Superheroes. Try reading that as if you have no idea who these characters are or what's going on. It's impossible. Try reading Jason Aaron's Avengers. Even though in theory it's starting up kind of normal, you still have Jennifer Walters still has PTSD, and there's a Celestial, and for some reason Ghost Rider's driving around in a Camaro, and what is even going on? It would make no sense. Despite everything we've heard over the last 10 years at least, that comics, we want to bring in new readers, we want to get new people into it. Yeah, great idea for sure, but no new reader is going to pick up a Tonkabon version of the Krakoa era of the X-Men and have any idea what's going on or want to put up with any of that stuff. Nobody. As much as, you point to Teenie Howard's Excalibur. It's trying to appeal to a new audience, they say. Yeah, what audience? What audience can pick that up? I mean, let's even if you assume that the comic is being written with somebody in mind and it fits that demographic or whatever else it happens to be. Even if you assume that's true, if you're new to comics and you're getting Apocalypse talking about a grimoire and going to Otherworld like that, fuck no, it's not going to make any sense to anybody. Regardless, manga is winning in the newsstand fight, not because it's better quality wise. It may be. In some cases, I certainly prefer some of those stories a lot more, no doubt about it. But we're not even there yet. We're not. You're not even. There's not even an A-B comparison that's going on. There's no quality comparison that's going on right now because one of the players isn't playing. If you're wondering about why Marvel and DC's market share is eroding, you can certainly drive yourself crazy talking about the content and is it appealing to the right reader and is it too woke or not woke enough or whatever else. I mean, by all means, we can talk about that, but it doesn't really matter. There's no comic there. They're not producing anything to go into those stores, whether it's the most SJW thing or anti-SJW thing or whatever. Hell, even if right now you brought back the legends of the 90s, those artists, and you started to, get them writing books, nobody would see it because they're not actually even being offered in that place. That, at the end of the day, there could be a lot of reasons why manga is winning and why you see it kind of taking over more and more pop culture. But, the summary, because they're there, because they're playing. That's why they're winning. Do you realize that right now, Mark Miller, who more than likely is listening to this right now, Mark, can you convince Netflix to take some of your series? You're going to have to, one of the ones that's a little bit less dirty because they wouldn't want it. But just can you get Netflix to just print or hell bankroll it yourself and go to Five Below and say, hell, they know you. They know some of the movies and things you've done. Go and offer a Tonkabon version of King of Spies or, I don't know, whatever you want. Hell, Super Crooks. And you'll win. You'll win because nobody else is playing. How crazy is that? These stores, I mean, the mail I got back from Five Below, they would love it. They want it. It's not offered. It blows me away. Anyway, thanks for listening.